It's Tuesday night, and Kim's looking up something else. What are you looking at?
Oh, I had to make sure it was starting on my phone as well. And yes, I'm Kim, and this is Scott, and he's going to behave himself because he doesn't have much of a voice. So,
Yeah, because allergy season's here, and my voice started going away last night, which is not good.
no,
Did not need that before the show, before
No.
tonight.
you did
But
not.
it don't matter. We're gonna do what we can.
Uh-huh.
Obviously, if we go away for or off screen for a minute, it's because my voice is completely gone, and
Yes.
I'll probably just. But the way that she just gave that look, I'll probably just stay here and hit buttons like this one.
Please get your shit together.
Or that one.
Yeah, that's about what it's going to be.
Hey, Hannah.
Hi, Hannah.
Yeah, so I forgot how long that cricket one was.
Yeah, it's quite a long cricket.
Obviously. Very long.
Yeah.
That's what she said. Started the motor. You can't hear the motor, no. How come? I got you too low?
No. You haven't got me too low.
Fucking deaf in both ears now.
I'm sorry.
All right. Should we go on the other side?
Yes, let's.
We got new.
Yes, we have.
Well, Kim hasn't seen this new one.
No, but we do have a new opening.
All right, you ready?
I am ready.
It's just a new opening for tonight.
Yep, just for tonight.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Welcome to Using Views. I'm Scott.
I'm Kim.
And this is episode 178.
8.
And we're talking Doctor Who tonight with one of our patrons, Backyard Tardis,
Yes.
or Nick. And it's going to be a fun night.
It is.
Just seeing her, she only seen bits and pieces of the new intro for tonight as I was making it. Right?
Right.
Tonight was the first time you saw the full
intro. Yeah.
Did you like it?
I did.
All right. Anyways, Kim, who we got in the chat?
We have in the chat, we've got a quote. We got Luna Girl, we have Hannah, and we have Backyard Tardis too as well. Probably more people will join shortly, but right now those are the only ones.
Right. Well, that's the reason why. I mean, starting in January.
Yes.
I want to have a 5-minute timer.
Yes.
That says 5 minutes
till show time.
Right. Stream is starting in 5 minutes.
Yep.
Run it 5 minutes early.
Yeah.
So that way, when it hits right on the mark, everybody's already been notified.
Exactly.
Because I was reading some things where they're talking. Oh yeah, one of the things you got to do is run a
timer,
some type of timer or something to count down to when you're going live. That way, you give YouTube time to get all the
notifications out.
Because we see it even with our own phones, where we're 20 minutes into a show and it finally shows up.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like
exactly.
What? But yeah. Anyways,
I love the opening. It was like traveling in the TARDIS.
Okay, I didn't even look at it that way. I didn't at all.
Yeah, well, that's what it was. It was like traveling in the TARDIS.
Okay, well.
Hello, Mikey.
And Mikey, the son-in-law, is in the chat. But yes. All right, so let's get to business.
Yes, and let's get on the other side of it.
We just died on the other
I
side
know.
of it.
And I'm doing most of the reading. You're going to behave yourself.
I can't even think which button I want to press right there.
Thank you to our Patreons, Luna Girl and Dragon Buddy, Don Delisnitsowski, Nicholas, Schaefer, Hannah, Mikey, Brinley, Case, and Steve Long from Rogue One Radio.
Please get your shit together.
That's to me.
Yeah, I know it is, because you're supposed to correct that banner.
I was supposed to correct it because it was right. Boom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Join our Patreon. Go to patreon.com/usedabusedpod. Search for Used and Abused Pod today on all your favorite podcast apps, including Apple, Google, Audible, Amazon Music, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more. Don't forget to smash that like button. And if you are new to the channel, click subscribe and then click the bell to be notified when we go live. You can find Used and Abused Pod on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or otherwise known as Instagram. You can email us at usedandabusedpod@email.com.
At email.com.
Yeah. Or at gmail.com. Yeah, now I need to get my shit together.
Please get your shit together.
At email.com. Wow.
Let's say that's usedandabusedpod@gmail.com.
There you go.
Our website is usedabusedpod.com. There you can find links to all of our episodes, links to our YouTube videos, replays of our live shows, and link to our merch store and link to our Patreon under donate. You can leave us a message and also click subscribe to be notified by email when new audio-only episodes are available.
I keep breathing through the fucking mic.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So it almost sounds like we're outside.
No, we're not outside.
And before you know it, we were.
Oh, I know. Leave us a message at 928-719-0749.
Sorry you're having to do all this.
Go to tpublic.com and search for Used Abused Pod, all lowercase, for our merch store. There are t-shirts, tank tops, hoodies, face masks, onesies, coffee mugs, and etc. Yes, they're still the 2 original designs. We're working on getting new ones.
Oh, speaking of new.
Yes.
Let's just pop them up real quick.
Yes.
Well, best we can.
Here is our new stickers that we just received yesterday, I believe.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
We are proud members of the Red 5 Network.
Members?
We are a proud member of the net. Now you've really messed me up. Now let's try this over.
Sober?
Let's
The fuck you been drinking?
Hey, nothing to this point.
I'm not the one who said, let me do this sober.
Let me start over. We are a proud member of the Red 5 Network. Go to Red 5 Network to find more exciting podcasts. Go ahead next.
Oh.
To find all 38 Red 5 Network podcasts, go to bio.link/Red 5.
All right. We ready for the Red 5 happenings?
Yes. Now for our Red 5 happenings as presented by Luna Girl.
Okay.
Hi, friends.
How we doing?
Kim, you did a good job.
You did. Besides saying, now let me do this sober.
I didn't hear her say sober.
I get it.
It's those allergies clogging up your ears.
That's probably it.
How are you guys?
Good.
Good, besides losing the voice, but yeah, good.
Well, we have an easy week because we have a big holiday in 2 days. So some of our podcasts will be taking a nice holiday break. And let's break it down for you starting tonight. After this podcast at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central, you're going to want to tune into Rogue One Radio. They will be covering Andor episode 11 with special guest Dragon Buddy from ATSW The Escape Pod. And it might be a little biased, but I think he's a great guest. So Tune into them, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central, tonight, Tuesday, right after the Escape Pod. Following that at 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific, is Extra Star Wars with your host, Extra Techie, who is also going to break down Andor Episode 11, but in a way that you've never seen before. And let me tell you, it's interesting. He's got segments. He's got electronic thingies flashing across the scene. It gets techie. So tune into that tonight, 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 p.m. Pacific. Tomorrow, Wednesday, November 7th. No, November 7th. Don't ask me where that came from. Scott, just so that you know, it's gingerbread coffee, and I am completely sober. But anyway, getting my shit together. Tomorrow, Wednesday, November the 23rd, at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, will be the boys over on the West Coast, Sarlacc Digest. They are going to break down the season finale of Andor. Review, reactions, breakdowns. Maybe they'll hit the rumor mill. I'm sure they'll be talking about Bob Iger. Those guys cover everything Star Wars. So make sure to watch the season finale of Andor and then tune into them tomorrow evening. On Thursday, November the 24th, yes, it is Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving. We do have one podcast that will be a noon premiere from After the Weekend, and they're going to be reviewing an Indian movie. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly. Saaho, Saho, Saaho. I'm sorry I butchered that. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm thinking it's Saaho. But regardless, tune into them at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on Thanksgiving, right after the Macy's Day Parade, and they will probably pronounce it a lot better than I just did. On Friday, November 25th, I am going to call this tentatively at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, will be Stranger Things Has Happened, Season 2, Chapter 6. And I only say that because my co-host isn't feeling so hot this week. So I told him, don't worry about recording last night. I told him not to worry about recording today. We might record tomorrow, but if he's not feeling good, I'm not going to make him record. So that's how we'll do that one. The Red 5 Tavern will be on holiday break. We are going to close the doors of the tavern, maybe do a thorough cleaning of that place because, it gets all icky in there with all the villainy and scum that visits. We will be opening the tavern back up next week on December the 2nd with a one-shot with DM Warbear, a.k.a. Tom, a.k.a. Eldrin the Wood Elf. He will be DMing Night of the Shadow Walkers. So that should be exciting. In the meantime, you can, you know what? Go follow the Red 5 Tavern on TikTok because they worked really hard making it. And that's where we're putting all of our best epic Red 5 Tavern clips. So if you missed them this week, go check out some clips on TikTok. On Saturday, and this would be November the 26th, Scarif Live will be going live at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, with their take on the Andor finale. It is the chilliest, so you definitely want to be in that live chat. Always an epic time, always a lot of laughs, and Ro has the questions that make you think. At 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 p.m. Pacific, Dork Wars will be going live with Dork Wars Live. Their return to Hogwarts. They're wrapping it up. Year number 7. And special guests, Nicole, my Sunray, Joker Voice, me, and possibly my sister-in-law, Lisa. So tune in Saturday. We're going to get all, Hogwarty, Potterheady. It's going to be fun. Sunday, the 27th, 8 p.m., the Science Fictionary / Coruscant Radio Underground will be doing their take on the season finale of Andor. And they will have Dragon Buddy and myself to break that down with them. Join Andrew and Marisha in the live chat over on YouTube. Always a great time. Sometimes we have trolls, but sometimes that happens. So shrug it off. You don't throw gasoline on a dumpster fire, guys. Tentatively at 8 p.m. would also be Comics and Cosmetics. Next Monday, November the 28th at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. That is 2:30 p.m. Pacific time. The Sidebar Cantina gives their breakdown on the Andor finale. This is something that Dave and Jason have been breaking down like every 4 episodes or so. So can't wait to see their reaction. They always tell it how it is. Some good, some bad. Come along for the ride. I'll be in the live chat, definitely. At 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, Force of Light Entertainment will be going live with Force of Light Live. And at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, after the weekend, will tentatively be going on at that time as well. For ATSW family, no booth in the back this week. We're taking a holiday. No ATSW the Escape Pod this week. We're taking a holiday. There was no layman's terms this past week. He's taking a holiday. The Orange and Fat Show, however, they released this past Friday, episode 59, G.I. Joe the Movie. You can catch them on Spotify, and you can now watch them on YouTube. So go give them a subscribe. Also, Swede Studios is definitely working on something. I know because I talked to him this morning. And, I get the ins and outs. I'm like the TMZ of Swede Studios. But I'm not going to say anything because unlike TMZ, I'm a loyal friend. Check out Swede Studios. Subscribe on YouTube. Follow him on Instagram. Follow him on Facebook. Hop into his Discord. And maybe he will release some clues to you. I can say it is an acoustic performance solo, and you're going to love it. And that is just about everything that I have. I just want to also say that War of the Stars are now audio pods only. They're not going to be doing their Facebook Lives anymore. So subscribe to them on your favorite podcatcher. And I believe that's about it.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, Kim, since we got Luna Girl still on here, you want to do that now?
Yes, let's.
All right. So, hashtag Tavern for Tom.
Yes.
Oh, this was your Tavern for Tom winning.
Yeah.
Yes.
Somehow
Yay.
one of the
Something that I know Kim is going to love.
All right. Well, that's the case, and I'll pull them out.
All right, go ahead. I'll let you. I promise I won't be popping these.
I put extras in there for you, Kim.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, Lord. Jeez, I feel like I'm opening a Christmas present.
Yeah, I get decent poppers. Yeah.
All right. Looking.
Oh wow, yeah.
So the first time I won that during it was Rick Grimes' character,
Yep.
Walking Dead.
Walking Dead.
It's friggin' awesome.
Okay, Dad.
Yeah, I gotta get back into watching that
Yes.
since it's almost over.
Yeah, because they're
Alright,
going on their
Kim.
final season.
All right.
This is the one Kim's gonna squee
your eyeballs.
over.
Close your eyeballs, hold your hands out. Hold on. Don't. All right, hold on. All right. And 3, 2, turn it the proper way.
I'm sorry.
1, look.
Yes.
I knew she was gonna love that.
Yeah.
You gonna tell the folks what it is?
It's Harry Potter Trivial Pursuit.
Because Kim is the ultimate Potterhead.
Exactly. I mean, I'm there
Yay.
to a point, but yeah. But yeah, she's definitely ultimate.
Kim, that was actually donated by my own Padawan for the giveaway.
All right,
tell her
on.
thank you.
I will.
That's awesome.
I know. Even my kid got into, donating and giveaways and stuff. So that was pretty cool.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So happy Thanksgiving.
happy
I
Thanksgiving,
don't
you
want to
guys.
take away from Backyard Tardis's show. This is going to be a good one.
Yeah, it will be.
I'm definitely a Whovian. The lights that you see right there, those are actually Tardises. I have Tardises
Nice.
hanging up in my Star Wars room.
We're gonna have to find them.
Kim, I will send you the link to Amazon, okay? Because they're so cool. They're perfect for a nerd girl cave.
Good. There goes the bedroom. Okay. You know
Aw.
Here we go. Let's make.
BYT said I should stay and join in.
If you want to. If you want to. Real quick.
I can stay until about 6, and then I have to go make some dinner for
Okay.
So
the family. I didn't plan for it.
I'll make you a compromise, Kim.
Go ahead.
Okay. We'll get you backyard. God damn. Okay, BYT, you gotta make your own fucking set of lights now. We'll get Tardis lights, but we get rid of Grogu.
Never.
Never.
There are plenty of Grogus over there. Okay, you do
All right.
not have to get rid of Grogu to put up Tardis lights.
I would anyways. She knows that.
That's
You
a
know,
terrible
She
suggestion.
knows I'm joking. She knows I'm not being serious. But real quick, since Kim read pretty much the whole show, as a reminder, all links are in the show notes, pinned to the top of our Twitter page, and go to bio.link/usedabusepod, and you can find everything else.
I will
And as
do
always,
you a quick favor as you introduce your guest today. Don't mind me looking at my phone.
okay. As always, just real quick, we like to say we got away from it a couple of weeks ago, for the last couple of weeks, but always hashtag keep talking. And with that being said, let's bring in the man who is definitely a Whovian,
Yes.
and that is Backyard Tardis. How you doing, Nick?
Hey everyone.
Event!
First
Oh,
off,
Lord.
is my mic reverberating or anything?
No.
Okay,
Sounds
good.
perfect. Sounds
All
perfect to
right.
me. But yeah, welcome to the show. As you can tell, my voice is toast.
Well,
It should be a fun episode, though.
oh yeah, very fun. So from what I get, this is both of yours first introduction to Doctor Who, or
No, not me. I actually caught a lot of them here and there when I was living at home. My brother loved Doctor Who, and so did my mom. So when I was off, we'd watch it. So there's some episodes I have seen.
Okay.
And as far as I go, yeah, this was the first time watching it.
So Doctor Who can be an acquired taste, and every doctor completely changes the show. What did you think so far of the show?
I loved it.
And you can't hurt my feelings.
No, we got done watching it, And I'm like, oh my gosh, I enjoy this. I mean, it's probably because I do like British humor. You know, I mean, wasn't into like Monty Python in the beginning, but after when Dave and Jason went to go do a show about it, I decided to watch it for the first time in my life because no one ever really brought it across my deal. And like, oh my gosh, I love this guy. I love these guys. But I actually did love watching this first season. The stories back and forth were really cool.
And what's interesting is this season had very low budget. There wasn't a lot of faith in this season.
Bigger on the inside.
It is. It even has a wardrobe.
Too bad the batteries died on this because it lights up and it makes the whoosh, whoosh, whoosh sound.
Right on. But for me, I really did enjoy it. I mean, if I had to wait week to week to watch to watch it the first time when it was coming out week to week, I would have been going crazy.
Yeah, you didn't even get them week to week sometimes. Sometimes you had to wait 6 months to a year.
Oh, wow.
You did.
Yeah. But so I mean, be able to watch, binge watch it was really good because you didn't have to wait for that next episode.
Yeah, and British TV can be that way. Like they take whole years off.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's just what they do. It's just what they do.
Completely. But when you look at like other sci-fi franchises like Star Trek, and I don't know if you've ever seen the documentary The Captains, but every one of them got divorced while they were the captain.
Wow.
Every one of them, it blew up their marriage because it was like, when they're going 22 episodes a year nonstop for 7 years, like it just destroys your life.
Right.
So to some extent, it kind of stinks for us as the consumer, but then at the same time, I kind of understand like that mentality of like, okay, season on, you go hard, you produce it, then you take a season off and be with your family.
Right.
But,
yeah.
Different areas, different ways they go about stuff.
And a lot of them, because they were such great actors.
Doctor Who, to me.
Oh, are you delayed from me?
We obviously have.
There's a delay.
Yes.
I was going to say, and a lot of the doctors, would film a season of Doctor Who, and then they would go on to other projects. Tennant had other projects. They would guest star on a lot of different things. A lot of great actors got their, I wouldn't say start, but their start on Doctor Who.
One thing
a lot of them.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm going to have to avoid the chat because I think maybe having that doubled up is slowing me down. But I would say a lot of actors are big before they come to Doctor Who, but they're not big in the U.S.
Yes.
They're not faces or names we recognize. But when you look at like my friends over in the UK, like, oh yeah, they were in this and all these daytime TV shows that we don't watch, so we don't know who they are, but we're already like these acclaimed, whatever the UK's version of Broadway and all that kind of stuff,
right.
Actors, and then coming into Doctor Who is how they become worldwide known.
Yes, I agree with that.
That is cool.
Like David Tennant, we only knew him from, Harry Potter, we had no clue who he was before Doctor Who.
What was he in Harry Potter?
He played the Minister of Magic's son.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was a bad guy.
Okay.
He was.
Mm-hmm.
Small role.
This is what was for me. It's like, you start learning these things about certain people or where they were, or they were this in another show or in another movie. You're like, whoa, what? Like, oh gosh, what was the one we were watching? One had the one that just Andor.
Yeah.
They had the mom, Mrs. Dursley, in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple other actors and actresses, or a couple other actors from the Harry Potters. I'm like, whoa, because
Mhm.
she'd be like, oh hey, why do they like them here? I don't know. We look them up. Oh, they're in Harry
Yeah.
Potter such and such. But yeah, it was like, wow. But for me, watching this for the very first time, it really, I just like the flow of the show. It
Mhm.
week in, week out, or obviously it's a week in, week out, but each episode pretty much got this timeline. Where
Mhm.
some of our shows in here in the United States, they are jumping all over the place half the time.
Mhm.
You sometimes you're not even near where you were in the last episode, and that's what I definitely dug about this was the fact that you are literally there is a mention at least of what happened on the previous episode, if not if they needed to, like some of the two-parters where they
The one was the one with World War III, and
right,
then with
and
the
the
Daleks.
Daleks, yeah.
Yes, the Daleks.
So for me, it was neat seeing even them mentioning like one where I think the one before, where they drop out the egg.
Yes.
But
Yes.
you didn't see them do that, but they talked about it right there in the beginning of the next episode, and
Yeah, I
then
did.
boom, you're into the next thing. I was like, wow, I like this.
Yeah.
Because at least as a viewer, you know where you are.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and one of the things that Doctor Who, especially the, it's often referred to as the reboot or New Who, but it's canonically they've made it all the same, at least until recent stuff. But it's one of those things where they do the Monster of the Week formula. Like it is very much like just like all the other shows, but at the same time, there's that running through thread of continuity. And you saw in this season the whole mystery box, so to speak, of Bad Wolf.
Yes.
And that technically like goes through all of Russell T Davies and Stephen Moffat's era of writing on the show. Is there's constantly these season or even sometimes multi-season arcs
Mhm.
of like a mystery that's building. They're going around, and in one way they're jumping around more than anything else. Like they're going to different planets, different time periods, all that kind of stuff. At the same time, there's a through story happening.
Yes, exactly. You put that perfectly. And you will see Bad Wolf all through the 10th Doctor. And you'll even see it pop up, what would you say, halfway through Matt Smith's reign as Doctor, as what was it, the Doctor's 50th birthday they came out with that special?
The 50th,
I love that one.
That is something that I would tell people is the best episode of Doctor Who.
Me
but
too.
At the same time, it doesn't have the impact unless you've watched more of Doctor Who, because it basically celebrates everything from 63 all the way up to now. Like all the Doctors are all recognized, showcased, everything. So it really pulls it all together, and they even reference Bad Wolf and that kind of stuff, tying in a lot of these things. So it's really good. But the more Doctor Who you've seen, the better it is.
Okay.
Exactly.
Well, that's like,
if you've never watched Classic Who, the opening scene of that starts in black and white, and it is the opening scene of the very first episode of Doctor Who.
Oh wow.
1963, and then it fades into color.
Oh, right on.
It's just like the way they do stuff like that. Really good, really good.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah.
Doctor Who that was probably my biggest escape between 2010 and 2018. Yeah, that was my biggest escape. That was my favorite show. I would binge them all, And then in between seasons, I would start them all over again. I usually started at 9. I've seen the movie that 8 was in enough to know who 8 is. I think I only watched it once. It wasn't very good.
That is not the best representation of 8.
It really was not, but you needed to see it. I picked and chose and watched a couple episodes of Classic Who, but never really had the time to sit down and start and go through them all. But yeah, it became a family show in my house. My husband watched it. Both of my children watched it and loved it. And they used to debate back and forth who was the better doctor, enough to where it would be like, okay, enough, but I kind of miss it now. Like both of my children are huge nerds. So, only in my house would this argument be happening, but still an argument nonetheless.
Yeah. And you talk about Classic Who, that's a much slower pace.
Mm-hmm.
It starts out in the 60s. It was much more like a stage show. And a lot of times they did it like a play. They filmed the whole episode all at once.
Mm-hmm.
So they built like all the stage sets and stuff like that. It was much more grounded, much more, a lot more Earth stories, a lot less aliens. But the way they did that was they broke it up into 20-minute segments. And so they'd have 4 of those would equal 1 episode, but they'd play it over 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it was kind of, but it had a very older style. And I've always looked at Doctor Who as kind of like, something like the Twilight Zone, but then the Doctor shows up and fixes it.
Yeah, that's a great description.
Yeah, I mean, that was like one thing with a lot of, it's just, he trying to figure out why they're there, or like I think it was episode 3 or something. He's like, "Oh, we landed in 1860," and then gives a news. "Oh no, we landed in 1869." I'm like, "What?
Mm-hmm.
What?" I mean, like, well, maybe you shouldn't be hitting with a hammer. I don't know.
You will learn probably in another season that time it's very wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
Yeah.
Well, and
Exactly.
something that, just a little piece of Classic Who knowledge here. The Doctor stole that ship from a museum.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Okay.
it's outdated technology from the time period where he's from.
Mm-hmm.
So it was in a museum, but it's also made to be manned by, I believe it's 5 people.
Mm-hmm.
So
That makes
he's
sense.
running around hitting things and all that, but it's supposed to have like 5 people working controls.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also sentient. And so it sometimes takes him where he needs to be and not where he wants to go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we did get that kind of the point of it being a living being when the last of that one,
the Sylvines.
yeah, Sylvines, when they went to go get her, or they showed up and all of a sudden found out she's in power still, and then used, I mean, pretty much the Tardis actually turned her back into an egg, which was like whoa, okay. But he kind of explained it there, where it was a living machine. I'm like, wow, okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Mm-hmm.
So that was neat to learn that.
Yeah.
I want to actually address Joker Voice's comment. The best Doctor of all time, 2-way time between Baker and Tennant. Agree with you 100%. The second one, best companion of all time, Sarah Jane Smith. Very cool. Clara Oswald annoyed the living crap out of me. Joker, come on. She's so whiny and needy.
I agree with you, Joker. I agree with you on Clara. I like Clara. She is one of my top companions. And I find it funny because Amy Pond, everything that I see people say about Clara, I say, you could say that about Amy Pond.
But she was like
No,
Scotch
she's
and
an Avenger.
bossy and like just full of sass.
But
Like
but anyways, we're getting into things that Scott.
Yeah, I know. It has nothing to do with this season.
I know who they're talking about, though.
You know,
Yes.
Tom Baker and David Tennant, you know, although I wouldn't put them necessarily, I'm Peter Capaldi and all of a sudden my mind's, but the second Doctor, those are my two favorite. But when you talk about popularity, I mean, the fourth Doctor, Tom Baker, he represents classic Who. Like people, see him, that's what they
Yes, he
think
does.
of when they think of classic
He
Who.
was my first Doctor. He was the Doctor I was born into.
Yep.
And David
He was my
Tennant
first.
is, even though he wasn't the first one of the reboot, he's definitely the one. You know, when the show caught legs, it got a bigger budget. He was the Doctor, and he just embodied the role. And Eccleston was really good.
Yes, he was quirky.
He also was very worried about being typecast.
Yes,
and had a lot of difficulties with the BBC. He had things that he didn't like about the budget quality and different things, and so he was almost 1 foot out the door before the show even aired. Because they did that first episode, they recorded that almost a year before they recorded the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Like a test.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, like over here, I mean, they order a pilot, but they usually also order 4 or 5 episodes to go along with that pilot. You know, and then they judge everything kind of based off the pilot. If it gets enough views and stuff, then they'll give it like a few more episodes to kind of give it well, back in the day, obviously a half season, because we went from October to right around the 1st of December, and then missed like a month, 1 to 2 months roughly, and then come back and run to May for our full seasons here. Which I mean, I'll just say, one thing I liked about noticing on this, and Nick, you brought it up, that, you know, obviously some streaming sites put some of them have 14 episodes for season 1, some only have 13, where they put the Christmas one at the beginning of the next season, or they kind of just leave them in the middle between the 2 seasons. And you know, even just thinking of that, because I was going through them, I noticed it looks like they all stop on, you know, like Christmas seems to be the stopping point. And it's like, you know, when I think of like season, you know, for like or for that or TV shows, it's like, yeah, it should be, you know, anything in 2022 should be pretty much January to December. Obviously, you can take months off or whatever, and then the next season should be the next year. But you know, leave it to us to have it all backwards and weird.
The Christmas special, though, isn't technically part of either season.
Okay.
So it was standalone. Think of those almost like direct to DVD movies.
Yes, exactly.
So those were
like one shots. They're all one shots.
The season would wrap up, and then that would be a bigger budget. And you'll see when you get to later seasons, that Christmas episode typically is a little bit longer, and it is very evident that the budget is bigger.
Okay.
And so, yeah, those are kind of like mini TV movies.
Okay. Yeah.
Kind of like what back in the day when you know, Dallas had their own, Dukes of Hazzard had their own little movies they come up with. Okay, that's cool. So I'm curious, everybody. I mean, obviously, Lunar Girl, you're just kind of said, hey, come on in, you can stay in. What is everybody's like favorite episode from season 1?
Oh, the I can't remember the title of it, but it is the Faceless Child.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
Are you my mommy?
Yeah.
It was a 2-parter.
The Empty Child and the
The
Doctor.
Empty Child, yes.
Joker Voice says his was the Dalek.
That was good too.
Exterminate.
So, with like the Empty Child, to me, that is what truly hooked me on this show. So,
It was so good.
with my history is this was something that I knew. I mean, all I knew about Doctor Who for the longest time was a pinball game. A pizza joint had, and I couldn't even figure out who was the Doctor. I didn't realize everybody on the pinball table was the Doctor. But my manager was constantly talking about how much he loved Doctor Who. I was hearing about it on The Big Bang Theory. I kept going, this is something I got to do. And I love time travel, so why am I not watching the show? But he went and saw the 50th in theater, and then the next day just would not stop talking about it. So then I pulled it up on Netflix and started. And the first few episodes, I was kind of a little iffy. The Slovene with the farting jokes was not my kind of, and I was
mannequins that are coming to life in a department store, really?
And straight from the episodes in the 70s. And so for me, I was a little, but when the empty child like that, just wow.
Yeah.
And it was the first time we saw Captain Jack,
Yeah,
Yes.
it was.
He's a character.
He is. Much love to him. I know the world's trying to cancel him now, but
yeah,
I fully think that it's of no reason.
Yes.
But
he played an excellent doctor who was a bisexual person in the military, and that's not why he was cast. Like, now people cast according to, we need to be completely equal opportunity and have representatives of everything in it. He was not cast for that reason, and yet still was a huge advocate for, bisexuals in the, when we didn't talk about it yet. It was like, what, early to mid 2000s?
Well, yeah, he was well written. And
that's
the big thing. He was well written, well acted.
Yeah.
And, it seems like in these last couple of years, there's been this attitude by the writers that they've been getting is that they have to fix Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And
Joker, I never said he was a doctor. I said he was introduced in the Empty Child episode.
But, it's one of those things where now they do that. And you look at here, it was just part of the show. It wasn't a big thing. It wasn't a big social media post to how we're finally fixing this injustice that this wasn't in Doctor Who. It just was part of the show. And he was a great and fun character. He had
very fun.
Yeah, for me, I can definitely go with the Empty Child. That one was like really got me on the edge of my seat.
Oh, yeah.
Now the one I was not expecting, and this one should open her mouth a little sooner, because she's like afterwards, she's like, I was going to tell you that maybe we should wait for that one, but was Father's Day.
Yes,
that one. Holy crap!
That was
was a tearjerker.
Yeah, that was one of the first ones I'd seen.
And for me, I was like, I mean, it's funny, it's not funny, but I mean, for me, it's like it bringing all these things with losing my late wife and stuff, and it's just like all coming. I'm like, really? I did not need this, but but I did like that one.
Now that I'm a dad, I cry too.
Yeah,
I didn't before.
And I think a lot of this got to do with I'm looking at it also from a father's point of view. I'm seeing like if that was me and my daughter doing the same thing for me.
If you liked that episode, you're gonna love what happens with the 10th Doctor.
Okay.
So
file
that in the back of your head.
One of the things that with that specific episode, as one, I love the story, I love the acting, but for a long time I had a little bit of a problem with it, and I kind of caught something in this one that kind of helped fix that for me, because I always felt like Russell T Davies kind of painted himself in a corner in that he made rules for the universe that we'd never seen before, and we never see these, bat creatures ever attack again. And so I thought every time they create a paradox, now these things should be showing up. Like, you can't introduce that. But he talked about how it was because there was 2 sets of them, and they basically took two versions of themselves, time travelers, and then voided the one out. They made the paradox more extreme that way. And then when you look at how Rose's timeline is tied into like Bad Wolf and all that, I thought, you know what, maybe there's some explanation of like, this is bigger than just the usual, because when you got a show that is all about time travel, there's going to be 5 or 6 paradoxes a season.
Right.
So
absolutely.
That was one of my things I always had, as like, this episode is so beautiful, but he's making rules that you cannot have in this show. And like another show that I really like Stargate, when they went from the movie to the TV show, they really quickly were like, okay, there's some things we just have to get rid of. We have to remove this rule because we can't do that for years of television. And that's always the tricky thing as a writer. Don't back yourself into rules.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Doctor Who fans are not like any of the other fandoms because we realize the plot holes. But we continue to watch and enjoy because we know somewhere in the future they're going to go back in time and redo it. So it doesn't matter.
Right. Well, yeah.
You just accept it.
Talking about that, I mean, I don't remember which episode it was, but when they first went to the station.
Satellite 5?
Satellite 5. Thank you, Kim. And, it's beaming, 10,000 friggin' newscasts or something like that. Like, what?
Yep.
Who in their right mind, but then when they beat that and then they go to it 100 years later in another episode, all of a sudden now it's like the ultimate friggin' reality game show, except for instead of being evicted or you're off the show, or the weakest link, you're killed.
Not killed. Yeah. You're transported through space. You're not exterminated, you're transported through space.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Hunger Games meets the weakest link.
Yeah,
exactly.
That was such a great episode, though.
So
they're all great episodes.
Rose. Some people find this one a little silly. One, because some of the special effects when he's like got the hand and he's going around, but the Ontons, also referred to here as the Nestine consciousness. Those are an interesting one to go with first because they are a classic Who villain. And they first were in Spearhead from Space. The third Doctor, John Pertwee's first episode, they made the thing there. And of course they were simple. They were mostly just like the mannequins with the little hands that drop down and have guns. And stuff. And then when they made their return in Terrors of the Ontons, we saw the introduction of the companion Jo Grant and the introduction of the Master, which is basically another one of the Doctor's species, but he's just eccentric and everything like the Doctor, but he's evil.
You'll find out more about the Master when you get to the next Doctor.
Okay.
Yep.
Because that's when they bring him back. They bring him back, baby. They always bring him back.
They do.
Yeah. And so for the Ontons, they were never, they weren't the Daleks or the Cybermen or the Master or something, like these A-tier Doctor Who. They were B or C tier, but they were a clear, memorable one that had multiple episodes, and they use them a lot in the newer Who. And it was just kind of interesting because it was something that wasn't like, if they made the first episode Daleks, everybody would know that, recognize that, but it would just kind of be the simple thing. This is something that they pulled out that if you were a classic fan, you got the reference, but if you weren't, it was something completely new. It wasn't something, that's that silly Doctor Who thing. And I think they did a really good job. all of a sudden I'm blanking on the name, but the actress that they got to do Rose Tyler, she was
Billy Piper.
Billy Piper. Yeah, she was a teen pop star.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I did look that up and went, holy crap. Okay.
And now she's a mom. She's like, she's kind of stepped away. She still does like some Doctor Who Big Finish audio dramas. But for the most part,
for Joker, Billy Piper is my favorite companion.
You said that you like Billy Piper. Check her out. First season of Penny Dreadful.
Yep.
And that's another show that DB loves. Well, loved, but yeah, he loved. DB loved Billy Piper. I think he's taking a nap still. When I came on the pod, he was sleeping.
Okay. Well, I mean,
another episode that was thrown out there was Dalek. Or now that episode to me was so important because in the classic Doctor Who, they played a pivotal role, but the further it went on, it became a joke, and you could almost say that in newer Doctor Who too. But the amount of emotion he put in there with that acting off that, and Nicholas Briggs as the Dalek. Great performance, and it's funny. He's got a podcast himself, and he
really
voice on the fly with a modulator because he does the Big Finish audio dramas. He's the head content creator of that, but he's the voice of the Dalek.
Nice.
And
nice.
They do that, and it's funny because a lot of these actors grew up on Doctor Who. So when they go on the stage and the voice comes through, like they jump.
Yeah. Yup. Everybody knows that sound.
What's interesting is how important they were to Doctor Who. Doctor Who would not be the show it is today. It probably wouldn't have continued. But initially, let's see if I can. Sidney Newman, the creator of Doctor Who, he had a policy. There's going to be no buggy-eyed aliens in Doctor Who. No buggy-eyed monsters. No. He was very much not. He hated the Monster of the Week stuff of the 60s. And you see that in the first couple of seasons of classic Doctor Who is they go and visit like cavemen or the ancient Aztecs. They go to a lot of ancient civilizations, or even when they go into space, they're all humanoid, humans. They're not all these, funny, rubber costumes of the past.
And
he initially threw out the idea of Daleks. He threw that script out, said no. And then something with the production, it was the second storyline because production got halted and he had to go, okay, do it. And then it was a phenomenal success. And the studio basically overrid him and said, do more of that.
Yes.
Anyway, something interesting that you brought up. Remember when you asked in the Dalek episode how the Dalek could absorb Rose's DNA?
Right. Well, because they mentioned that.
But
when all the other ones tried to touch, they burst in the flames.
Let me explain. Let me go ahead. So if you move to the episode back at the state at Satellite 5, what were the Daleks? They were people.
Well, yeah,
they were people. They were humans that they had absorbed the DNA.
But I'm assuming because this guy said it in that one, the guy that was calling himself God,
the Emperor.
Okay, whatever. Was literally said that they were using humans.
Exactly.
But I believe that's because the Doctor did take care of the race, and the only survivor of that race was that one.
But thinking that he mutated because he absorbed Rose's DNA, and then
okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
And then
because that was the one thing that happened in that episode because he started getting the feelings.
Yeah, and then the episode back at I don't remember what it's called, but that Satellite 5 episode, they were mutated humans.
Right.
Well, my dog barking is my alarm saying that I have to go because everybody wants some dinner and I gotta go wake up DB, but I'll still be watching in the chat. And I like how Joker said they were a race called the Kells because they used to go, hey, they're a race called Me's. So on that note, have a great show, you guys. Thanks for letting me come on and talk some goo talk.
Always. See you later.
Yeah. So like their origin, like they were the Kells, but the versus the Thals, and they were locked in war. But a scientist basically took their DNA. They look like humans. Took their DNA, tried to create in a very Nazi type way, tried to create the ultimate evolution of them. And created these little hate things that they put inside these tanks. And the idea that they're constantly trying to perfect their DNA, trying to make the ultimate perfect being, and they feel that it is their job to exterminate all other life from the universe. Mm-hmm. So very much Nazi kind of thing. But like when you go on to the show, towards the end of Classic Who, you had characters like Ace, who basically, for better terms, had a magic bat, and she used to beat him up with a bat. Like they become comical. And so I think it was very important that they established that these are a serious threat.
Right.
These are the biggest, worst evil in the universe. And they are basically, what Nazis are to Indiana Jones, that's what Daleks are to Doctor Who.
Right.
Yep.
And it's constantly, they fall back on them. Like, if we need something evil, we just throw the Daleks out there because they're just evil. There's no redeeming them. They're no good in them. And they're a crowd favorite. Everybody loves to see the Doctor defeat them.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, and really it, for me, especially for someone like me who had never seen, even like you're talking like Classic Who, and not knowing a lot of this, getting these opening, pretty quickly, even 6 episodes into the season, getting introduced to this, so oh, this is going to be a problem even as time goes, as he goes in and out of different time, eventually they're going to come back to this.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I was telling Kim, the one thing I liked about it was, while there were a few gaps in between the 2-part episodes, but when they gave you the perfect scenes to line you back up with what happened in the previous episode that lines up with this one. So, like I said, I ended up enjoying it. I mean, I loved. That's why, like, the last picture on the opening today was him just giving that smirk every time. I mean, probably one of my favorite moments that happened to the Doctor was when he first brought Rose back and said, "Oh, you'll only be gone for 12 minutes or 12 hours." And it's been 12 months. And then when her mom, sees him, whack, whacks him, slaps him across the face. I've never.
And I like the rule that they give them to make time travel not be broken is the moment they show up late and everybody reacts, it's too late to go back, because their motivation for going back in time to an early point in time would be because they arrived late and everybody was upset. Right. So that would create a paradox. So now they're in their timeline. They've arrived here. They can't go back and undo that, because then it would erase their motivation to go back and undo it.
Right.
And so, as you scratch your head, okay, yeah. But that's a rule that they play in too hard. Like, when somebody dies, well, why doesn't he just go 5 seconds before that and pop him in the TARDIS? Well, because his whole motivation to do that would be because they died. And they establish those rules for the show so that it gives it stake. It gives it a bit of meaning. So whenever he comes up and like some alien force is practically taking over the Earth, you can't just pop back 50 years earlier and defeat them when they show up. He's got to deal with the problem when he gets there.
Right. And real quick, just going to say goodnight to Joker. He's got to be to record, make dinner, and then Take a nap before work, brother. Have a good one. Be safe tonight.
Thank you
Have
for
a good
joining
night,
us.
Joker voice.
So yeah, I mean,
And
so literally we crashed this. I mean, we binge watched the hell out of this. You know, we did a lot last night and finished it up today. And really, it was really hard to stop it after 14.
Yeah.
You know, and go, oh, let's go on. You know, because that's when I get like when I'm into a show, especially nowadays with binging, being able to binge watch all these older episodes. I don't want to stop. I just want to keep going. You know, and that's one thing I can say. Even with the point of, you know, and I know for the audio people or people who never watch this, you know, first of all, I guess I should have said spoiler alert, but
Hey.
it's old. It's 2005. You should have watched it by now if you haven't. If not, go check it out. But one thing I really did like was even the point where when he kicked Rose out, or didn't kick her out, but locked her in the friggin' TARDIS,
yes.
sent it back to her time.
Yeah.
To where basically she goes back to save him and becomes a part of the TARDIS pretty much. And
yeah, she does.
Then he gets it, and then the next episode his hands all doing the thing, and he realizes, or at the end of it, he's realizing he's going to regenerate. I guess what it is.
Yeah, it's called the regeneration.
And it's like, wow, okay, I wasn't expecting that. You know, but that's because, you know, I'm seeing it for the first time myself. But it's like, okay, now I understand how you know, because one of my biggest gripes with her is Bond. You know, you got Sean Connery, Roger Moore, Pierce Bronson, Timothy Dalton, and Daniel Craig.
You can't forget the one that did On Her Majesty's Secret Service either.
I'm not a Bond. Obviously, you know Bond. I don't. Okay.
I know. I'm just saying.
One thing I was pointing out to her is, you know, if they could have just taken it where maybe they knew they were, you know, this guy, you know, like Connery was done, and they're going to bring in Roger Moore. Too bad they could have done something where, you know, maybe the bad guy in this movie killed off that Bond, and then they just give the Bond, you know, James Bond and 007 to a new person. And then maybe they go after that same one, or halfway through their movie run, they give them. But that was just my thought process on it.
It's a big fan theory that it is just code names. But then there's stuff in the movies where, like, you mentioned Lazenby, like his wife dies in that movie, and then in the next movie it's a different actor and he's mourning the wife's death. So it's like, well, that kind of shoots that theory out the door.
Right.
But with Doctor Who, what's interesting is they didn't start out that way. So you had the first Doctor. He started out already an elderly. Hartnell was old when he started, and his health was not great towards the end. And he was having trouble remembering the lines. The second Doctor they brought in, they tried to just pass it off as like he rejuvenated into a younger version of himself. And they kind of just had like, he went into the back room, you know, said, "Oh, I gotta refresh myself," and then just walked out as this other individual, and they're all kind of like, "What?" And so they kind of played it off as that. But then at that point, he wasn't even an alien. They didn't say he wasn't an alien, but they all just thought he was from the future.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the big thing at the end of the second Doctor is basically his people were punishing him for interfering with time.
Oh, wow.
And one of the punishments is that they were going to force him to regenerate. And so that's kind of when they laid out, oh, he's a Time Lord, and they have these rules, and this is how regeneration happens. And then for the third Doctor, they conveniently exorcised him to just Earth. He couldn't leave Earth. One time, one place on Earth, he had to live the 70s. And they did that because they were going to color. And the budget to do stuff in color was so much higher that they couldn't afford to be going to alien worlds anymore.
Right.
So pretty much every episode, aliens attack in a rock quarry. and the doctor was working for UNIT, the government thing that you saw there with the Savine that all came in.
Right.
That was a thing. He became the UNIT's scientific advisor, and he would go there, and their instant response to everything was, "Let's nuke it." Let's get the missiles out. Let's guys.
Yeah.
And he would be, no, we got to figure it out. We got to do this. But that was kind of like his section of the show was very limited because they were trying to work on the same budget but do it in color.
Right. Okay.
And so the whole like idea of Time Lord and being stuck to Earth and all that was all for a budget reason. But it's created this lore that works. And when you look at it, you're watching what's considered season 1, but in reality, there are 26 seasons before this.
Right.
But
yeah, that's one thing. That's one thing I noticed here. Like when I was looking here on the side, like story numbers are like Rose is 157 on the story number. Like, whoa, what the? But that's kind of cool knowing that. Really, when it comes down to it, it starts 63 and is continuing going instead of like like what we get nowadays where a lot of stuff they go, okay, well, this worked in the 80s, let's reboot it, and try to do all the same storyline or early storylines but just change them a little bit here and there, different ways. And it's like, no, that don't work. That's where everybody should really take a page out of Doctor Who and say, continue the story from this last point you were on. One show that did that, and I'll leave it at this, was Dallas. When they did the reunion or the return on TNT, they wrote it like, even though it was a gap, they covered that gap in that first episode and got you up to date with who is who and who are they related to and whatnot. And I like that because I was like, wow, that was covering that bridge from the original series to the new one at the time. But obviously it went out there. It wasn't that popular.
They've been doing that a lot with like sitcoms of the 80s and 90s, taking the kids and making them the parents. Fuller House, Girl Meets World, all the all these kind of shows. And I enjoy that kind of stuff. When it gives continual continuity versus stuff like I think it was like, I haven't watched it, but like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. They just reboot it, recast a new person. Will Smith's role.
We watched one
episode.
We meant to watch the whole thing. We did watch one episode, but I went in it with clear my mind of the original. Obviously the original. I mean, the original had moments of seriousness to it, but I cleared my mind knowing that this is a straight up drama. And I even heard Will Smith talk about it, and so I'm like, well, if this is gonna be this way, I can't go in with it as the previous inclination of this that will start in. And I mean, I know we haven't finished it, but that was everything else happens too, and then we forget about it, and then it's like, oh yeah, we meant to watch that again or finish it. But we liked I think it was the first one or two episodes we watched. We did like it, but that's because we had to pull ourselves away from being like, okay, well, in the 90s, this is what the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was like. And yeah.
And that's like stuff like Battlestar Galactica. Like I recently did an episode with Ro on that, and I'm supposed to do another one about the reboot season, but like they changed the tone of that so much because it was bleak in both, but yet at the same time it had so much more charm in the original. But it's not to say that they don't both have their place, but I do appreciate the Doctor who did that. And when you think that it started 3 years before Star Trek, TOS was on the air, and its last season, TNG was on the air. It's in the Guinness Book of World Records as the longest straight-running sci-fi show.
Nice.
And then in 1996, Americans tried to reboot it. They did a made-for-TV movie that was supposed to be a test pilot like Rose. It flopped really hard.
Wow.
And just basically canceled that. And then, so that's the same thing with Rose. Like, the BBC at the time did not have faith in the brand until they saw it. And just on that, then they issued out the whole first season, just based on that test pilot. But
Oh, wow.
the nice thing about Doctor Who is that you can jump on so often because the Doctor and the companions are constantly in flux. And every time a new companion comes on, they re-explain all the premises of the show.
Yes.
Right on.
So you constantly have somebody new who doesn't understand that it's bigger on the inside, that it's a time machine, and what's a Dalek, what's a Cyberman, what's the Master. All these classic villains, they become new again through the eyes of a new companion and how they react to it.
Oh, that's cool.
And so, like, this is a good jumping on point with David Tennant jumping on either with his next companion after Amy, after Rose, and then or jumping on with Matt Smith's Doctor. His first episode is a real good introduction to Doctor Who as well.
Okay.
So, because he has a moment, he first comes out and there's aliens there, and they do a thing where he's asking him, "Oh, is this planet a danger?" And they go, "No." They're showing holograms of them scanning like the news networks.
Yes.
Is this have others tried to conquer this planet? And it shows all the bad guys. It's like, what happened to them? And it goes through and it starts showing all the doctors and it gets the last one. And he like steps through the hologram and he goes, "Hello, I'm the Doctor." Basically, run.
Yep.
So it's, I love how they can take that and constantly reinvigorate the show.
Right.
And each Doctor has a different flavor. As you're already got to see a little bit with David Tennant, he's a little bit different.
Oh, yeah.
And I've always had the fan theory that whatever lesson they learn during that time as the Doctor affects who they become.
Okay.
And so you have the Doctor normally does not fall in love with his companions. And in fact, traditionally, he was a rather older guy. And so when you see Eccleston's Doctor, he's hurting. He's just lost his people.
Yeah.
In this battle with the Daleks. And so he falls in love with Rose because his people are gone. He's feeling alone in the universe. And at the end, what does he become? He becomes the heartthrob David Tennant. And,
right.
And he's very much a romantic Doctor. Like, he seems to constantly have people falling in love with him.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I liked about him, especially in the Christmas episode, David Tennant, is, literally, Rose's mom and everybody, like, he just pops right out. "Hi, Jackie. Hi, Mickey." Like, and they're like, "Who the hell is this guy?" I love that because, now Rose is having to explain, "Well, that's the Doctor." "No, that's not my doctor." And then, of course, what was the
Harriet?
Yep. "That's not my doctor."
Yep.
Yeah, I just loved it. I mean, and of course, even Rose says the same thing at first too, because but yeah, I just think it's an interesting way to be able to, one, not only you keep the show fresh with different Doctors, but you also, like you said, you're introduced. So somebody comes into it at season 8 or 9 or whatever, as long as you watch it from the first episode, you're more than likely, as long as you're changing Doctors, you're more than likely going to get the rules. You're going to get the background of what's going on, and it's definitely be helpful.
I usually tell somebody if they're not getting into the show, I ask them, "Oh, what aren't you liking about it? What are you looking for?" And I will point them to a different period in the show because I think there's a Doctor for everybody. But because each one brings a different charisma. Like David Tennant, like I said, he's kind of the more romantic and stuff. But Matt Smith that comes after, he is so boyish, and he's so much like they have this problem of now. David Tennant doesn't want to keep falling in love with companions, but they keep falling in love with him.
Right.
And so like it becomes a problem. So he kind of becomes this more, gender neutral, kind of boyish looking, the youngest Doctor yet, which was Matt Smith. And he's funny because, he's waving around and he's very expressive and all, gets excited. But then when it calls for, he can look 2,000 years old.
Yes.
His whole face drops. He lowers his head and he just gives this speech. And suddenly he looks ancient. So he goes from a guy that looks like, is that guy even 21? Can he drink yet? And then he just has his acting. He has this switch that makes him look like the oldest person in the world. But he goes and walks around and acts immature. And that's very much like the Fourth Doctor. The Fourth Doctor, Tom Baker, the one with the big scarf, he would go around and always play the idiot. They would go somewhere, they'd pop out, and they'd be in some, alien military base or something, and they'd all, how did you get in here?
Yeah.
And he'd go, I guess I took a wrong turn. And, he'd sit there and just play the fool, and then at the end be like super smart and brilliant.
Right.
And so, different ones have different things, but they're all kind of a little goofy, a little eccentric. They all dress kind of weird.
Right. I mean,
Yes.
like with the one episode that we were talking about earlier with the what are they again?
Daleks?
No, not them. The
The
ones that wear the people suits.
Oh, yeah, those. Thank you.
And Kim's like, oh gosh, it's right out of Men in Black, and I'm thinking to myself, well, that's also, to me, I'm getting a Cocoon feel out of this one.
Yeah.
But I mean, because they both, but she hadn't seen Cocoon, so she didn't know what I was talking about. But it's kind of, I mean, for me, I'm like, oh, that looks more, I'm thinking more Cocoon, because I remember like when they pull themselves out, you get the bright light and stuff. And I mean, we didn't really see, only thing we got from Edgar was that her.
But it was still a skin suit.
I know it's still a skin suit, but there's a difference between opening them up and, regardless of which way you open them up. But no, again, I really enjoyed this.
Now, thinking about, what did you think about when the Doctor basically, for all intents and purposes, dies and regenerates? Like, what was your reaction to that?
Oh, I mean, like, where he was sleeping a lot.
Well, just the whole
the whole process.
The whole process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I found it interesting. I mean, to me, it's a way, like we were discussing, it's an easier way to, especially the way, we know how Hollywood here works, where if an actor or if any actor cannot be part of a show, they just recast somebody else, put them in that place. I mean, I'll use the example of being Victoria from Twilight. Between the two movies, they cast a whole new character, or even where they brought a guy in that kind of looked like Crispin Glover in the Back to the Future movies.
Yeah.
After he went, he wanted more money or whatever. But I like it because it's a way to bring in a new character or a new Doctor. Like, kind of like, okay, well, this Doctor learned all he can learn. Now it's time for a new a new face, a younger or whatever, to take over and then to fight their battles that they need to fight.
Yeah, and it's interesting. This first one, for a lot of people, when they go into Doctor Who, they're thinking David Tennant. So when they see Eccleston, they don't get as attached to him because they know David Tennant is like the main one. But and you only get one season of him. But as it goes on, like when David Tennant goes, and I mean, he even breaks up and he looks out straight at the camera and says, "I don't want to go."
Yes, he does.
And
Oh, you seen that episode?
I did.
Okay,
and it
that's cool.
it is a powerful and you know, he's put in a situation where to save a person, he's going to have to, you know, much like the Ninth Doctor.
Right.
But he talks about, like, I had so much more to give. There was so much more I could do. But it was always you. It was always you. It was always here. It was always this. And, you know, and he just kind of goes into this, and it's just so emotional. And what's interesting, like when Matt Smith first came, I hated him. I hated the show. I thought, I was like, he's goofy, he's silly. You know, I want David Tennant. When he left, I bawled. You know, he's one of my favorites. Like I love him now. You know,
Right.
And my favorite, which is Peter Capaldi, when he first came in, like he was very rude, very mean, very cross, and he's like, "Ooh, I'm Scottish now. I get to be cross." His companion hugs him, and he's like, "I've decided I'm not a hugger anymore."
Oh gosh.
You know, it just, but you know, it's just funny how, like, when they go through and, like, sometimes you start out with new companions, new doctor, and you don't like him at first because you're upset about who you just lost.
Right.
And then by the time they go, it's so emotional, and it's amazing with the doctor because he doesn't die. He continues on. It's the show needs him to continue on.
Right.
But they make you have the emotional impact of him dying. And that gives the show always a constant sense of stake. Because it was funny, Ro asked a while ago on Twitter, like, what sci-fi, and I responded something, and he went back and said, "Well, I thought you would have said Doctor Who." I said, live in the Doctor Who universe. Like, aliens constantly almost wipe out the planet. And yes, the Doctor Who sets it right, but a lot of people die.
Yeah.
And all the companions, very few of them have happy endings. A lot of them have very tragic endings.
They do. They do.
I would not be hopping on the TARDIS crew. I would be Mickey. I'd be like, you know what? You're crazy if you're going and doing that.
Yeah, right. One thing I know, for me, I know we've talked about it a few times, but does the use of stuff from previous episodes, like the one where they went back, I think it was 1869 one where we're talking to Charles Dickens with the Rift, but then we don't hear about it again until that one with just that one gal left of the family.
Yeah,
and it's like, wow. And for me watching that going, oh my gosh, this is one of those that makes it where you don't want to miss an episode, because if you skipped an episode, you may not know 3 episodes later why something's going on, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's definitely makes it where, at least in my opinion, you should watch each and every episode. You know, it may seem like they don't mean nothing, but even like the second one, even though it was the end of the world or something like that, and it was time to really let Rose kind of experience time travel a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
And you are experiencing through that character. So I mean, for me, that's one thing I like, is the throwbacks to previous episodes when, oh well, we did this back in this year, and now we're here, you know. But it seems to be, hopefully that continues on as we watch it. So she's smiling.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I would say, you know, much like I talked about the 50th, the more Doctor Who you consume, like I went back, I have not consumed all of Classic Who. Um, I haven't watched. I think it's the last 4. I haven't watched the 6th and 7th Doctor yet. I've just watched a little bit of theirs. But the more of that you consume, like the more parallels you see, stuff that they are callbacks, and they definitely continue on. Like these seasons, when you watch laser seasons, you will get callbacks to stuff. Even that riff that you're talking about, they mention Torchwood.
Right.
Yes.
It's a spin-off show.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So that is an organization led by Captain Jack.
Oh.
And there's a little bit of what Rose did to him. She didn't just bring him back to life. There's more to it. And there's that when that face of Bo, the guy that was like the head in the jar.
Uh-huh.
They do later on a big plot twist. He's somebody you've already met.
Oh wow.
And you find out when you get that, you go, whoa, that like just blows your mind that they weave that in there.
Right.
And but anyways, with stuff like you talk about doing it, there's an episode that will be either in the next season or the season after that. That was one of my least it was season 3. It was one of my least favorite episodes. They go see Shakespeare,
Okay.
and to me it felt very much like Hocus Pocus. They had some Hocus Pocus style alien witches that could turn the spoken word into energy, and they were using Shakespeare. Anyways, I didn't like the episode, but the very last thing of the thing is that Queen Elizabeth sees him coming out of there, and she's like, "The doctor, arrest him at once!" And his companion is like, "Why does the Queen want you dead?" He says, "I have no idea. I haven't done it yet." And they run off. And then years later, they do the 50th, and it's, multiple doctors meeting together. And what do they have? But they go back to it and have David Tennant sitting down having lunch with Queen Elizabeth.
Right on.
And so it's like they took like that loose thread that they left there years ago, and it's like, oh, and, and he, they get into shenanigans, but they go back and they reference that, and you find out why she was mad at him years later. And I just love how they tie that together, and they do so little teeny nuggets of stuff that's sprinkled out constantly gets pulled on later in the show.
So I mean, I know Luna Girl was talking about this earlier, where about how the fans accept the plot holes. So pretty much they leave plot holes so they can go back and
Exactly.
tie them up later.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's pretty
and cool. Something, Russell T. Davis does a good job of this, but Stephen Moffat, who's the next showrunner, he's like brilliant at doing this kind of stuff. In fact, I would say he's less good at being a showrunner. Sometimes like he'll have like the big episodes that pull everything together, but sometimes the in-between episodes aren't as good. But his big mystery threads are mind-blowing.
Wow.
There's a character they bring in, and the day that character meets the Doctor, the day the Doctor meets that character, the day that character last sees the Doctor, and the day the Doctor last sees that character are 4 separate occasions. And so
Wow.
you try to work your mind on how they manage that and the mystery of who that character is. And it just kind of, when it all like blows up, and it's funny because there's like 5 different theories that everybody had. Oh, this character's this character's that. And then they would kind of like reveal something, you go, okay, that's who that character is. And then the next episode would be like, oh, wait, but there's more. And that other theory was right too. And that other theory, because it's all timey-wimey. And it just, let's see, that was season 5. That was season 6. Like, it just goes really hard. And then one of the Christmas specials years later, they bring that character back, and then they weave it even crazier.
Dang.
So, there's a lot of, on thinking on top, and of doing that with certain characters.
That's freaking awesome. I mean, by the way, hi, Isaac. Let's see, who is the doctor? Unknown. Yeah, I mean, for me, like the special effects, even stuff. I mean, I know some of it's supposed to look. They didn't bother me. I enjoyed it. I think it kind of gave me a little bit of that throwback to the original Star Trek series. How the ship never flew in like a perfect line.
Well, and the majority of it isn't CGI. There's a little bit of that, but most of it's practical.
Nice.
And it's like, and you can even tell, like when you see the Dalek like all of a sudden start flying, and it becomes CGI, but before that it was an actual model.
Oh wow.
And so sometimes, like, if and you're looking at it, all of a sudden you can see it like get more shiny.
I noticed that.
When you go back, but they did a lot of stuff practical, which another thing that's a joke, like in the classic, that was like one of the ways you get away from them is because they kind of hover on like they couldn't fly.
Right.
And so like you go upstairs. That's how you get away from a Dalek. They're the ultimate killing machine that can't get downstairs. And so like that moment when it does that, like it just like totally I know for a lot of like Doctor Who fans like that blew their mind, like, well, they're unstoppable now. That was their one weakness.
Yeah.
And
I can understand that, especially if like you said, go from classic Who where they can't go up and downstairs, and all of a sudden, like, yeah, now they can.
And classic Who went through, especially as the budget went up and down, back when it was in black and white, like if they needed to, and they needed like swamp monster beings, like they would just take some green bubble wrap a guy in it, and like that's the monster of the week. There are some hokey looking stuff, but it's fun and it's campy and it's well acted.
Well, that's one thing I noticed with this. I mean, there wasn't really a point where I felt like any actor was either being force-fed lines, or I mean, I got emotion from each of the actors in each of these. Even the whole farting thing. It was like, okay, I understand it. You guys are big, tall, and you're in these smaller freaking bodies. And you got to release gas all the time. But even with that, I mean, it was like, I just felt like, wow, they really did a great job at casting, and then two, they did, the actors themselves really got into the roles.
Yeah, and Doctor Who is kind of like, sometimes we have like certain big sitcoms here or something that like every famous actor wants to be on at some point, guest star or whatever. And when you get like big shows, sometimes like thinking like Game of Thrones, Walking Dead, whatever like the big show is, like big name actors and movie stars will guest star in an episode just because it's such a phenomenon. Doctor Who is such a big thing that pretty much anybody from any of the movies that you've watched that are like British based, you're going to start recognizing faces. You're going to see, I think when you do, if you ever watch the honest trailers about Doctor Who, and it's like every British actor from Harry Potter, it goes through and shows how many of them are. Every British actor from Game of Thrones, every British actor from, all of a sudden It's the biggest fantasy property ever. Why can't I think of it? Tolkien.
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings. Every
And
British actor from Lord of the Rings, and then it's like every other British actor. It's Jeff Corwin. It just never ends. They constantly have people guest starring, sometimes as themselves, sometimes as characters. But that's always a fun thing. Is like seeing it. And a lot of times, as Americans, we don't immediately we recognize them. We're like, where do I know them from? Where do I know them from?
Right.
It's like, oh, it's that guy. It's that guy from that thing.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's. I mean, well, that even happened in Andor because I mean, me and Karen, when we're binge watching it, getting caught up to be up with the rest of the Red 5 Network, I'm watching it all. It was like, where have I seen her before? I've seen her somewhere, and I'm not putting it. Why do I recognize and it was his mom, the lady who took him in, and it was like
Marva.
Marva, and then finally it was like, okay, I've had enough. I gotta look this up, and it's like, oh look, it was Harry Potter's. It was
Petunia.
Like, oh my gosh, really? So I mean, for that it was like, wow. But yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, obviously if if I pop in a movie and all of a sudden Carrie Fisher comes on screen, oh yeah, Carrie Fisher or Kim Basinger or but yeah, when it comes to like British actors and actors, it's like, where have I seen him before? Where? Trying to pinpoint. And that happened with me the first time I saw the first Harry Potter movie, because Alan Rickman, that voice, I'm like, I've heard this voice from before. Where have I heard it from? What movie? And then it finally went, oh damn, that's Die Hard. That's Hans.
Yeah.
But it took me a bit to figure it out.
And I think like for me, like when I really like when you get to season 4, Catherine Tate comes on as a companion, and she's famous for her stand up, and she does skits like Saturday Night Live stuff, and she brings a good energy to the show.
Right on.
But one episode we didn't talk about, because we've talked about most of them, but The Unquiet Dead.
Yeah.
And the British humor was like on par there, because it's like, it's not my fault that they won't stay dead.
Yeah, I like that part.
Right.
And just like the idea of like this Undertaker, like, doesn't like just leave town and go away. Like, he's still trying to run shop. And like, he's just like, we're gonna chain him up. We're gonna lock him up. We're gonna do this. Like, just the concept of that is just so absurd. Like, if you think about that time period, like they should be, exorcisms and
right,
going crazy and screaming and running.
Yeah, and of course that was the one where the doctor said, I always like a happy medium.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Rose is like, you went there, and I'm just like, yes, he went there, and that's freaking hilarious.
And it's funny because like I've got a friend who was an Undertaker's assistant, and they get a strange sense of humor, and so him and his assistant like bickering about it, and like, what should we do? Just the idea of how crazy they went through all that was just really good. And then seeing Charles Dickens, like, this is lunacy. This is
they did a great job, because I actually looked up Charles Dickens at the time, and I saw a photograph of him that they had, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they really did a good job on this, because the photograph of the original guy versus the actor, and I applaud shows when they do that, especially when they're doing period pieces or getting into with certain characters from art, from the history, and when they can find actors that look like these people, it's like, whoa, it blows your mind.
Yeah. And when you look at stuff like they do Winston Churchill really good. When they get to Vincent Van Gogh, that one made me cry. That one made me cry really big time. They do really good with his issues of mental illness and how he saw the world. There's they even do President Nixon once, and his like final words to the doctor is, "Doctor, let me know. Am I remembered as like will people remember me as a president?" And the doctor just looks up and he's like, "Dickie, they're never gonna forget you." He like just like but it was like stuff like that. Like he goes in with so many. He meets up with Agatha Christie, like
Oh, wow.
So it's definitely fun to see like all the different historical individuals get played into it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, for me, man, again, I keep reiterating, mainly because it's my first time seeing it. So for me, it's like I'm hook, line, and I've grabbed the hook. I'm being reeled in, as we speak. So I'm excited to move on and watch each of the other, seasons to eventually get caught up and see where it goes from here. And I guess even now they still do kind of skip a season or skip a year before they come back, right?
It's definitely been drawn out. Of course, COVID played in that, but the show's in a really bad place right now.
Oh.
So there's been 3 showrunners since it come back. You had Russell T Davis, then Stephen Moffat, and then you had Chris Chibnall. And Chris Chibnall did not want to be a showrunner. In fact, Stephen Moffat ended up having to create a new doctor because that he didn't. He had said he was done, and then Chibnall said, "I'm not ready." So, but he was like one of the only other writers on the show that had experience of being a showrunner.
Okay.
Typically for dramas, though. And so he did that. He did the Peter Capaldi. He killed off the companion. He basically ended the show and said, "Okay, I'm ready to hand it over." And Chibnall said, "No, I'm not ready." And so he had to create a new companion. He did another whole season. And then he was like, "I am out. This is it. I am gone." And Chibnall took another 2.5 years to have his first season come out.
Wow.
And he just drug his feet. And then he did the first female doctor. Mm-hmm. And shortly after the show started, she had problems. She had been the main female lead on a drama, but she'd never dealt with the production things, and she has young kids. And so then she was like, "This is too much." So then they cut the number of episodes in half. Yep. And they started splitting the seasons up so that there was like a year in between parts of it. It just got really crazy. They've really drawn it out because it's been 5 years and only 3 seasons. But it's finally about to go back to Russell T Davis. There's a new doctor starting this Christmas.
Okay.
Awesome.
So it's kind of, but the fans, just like you see in Star Wars, just like you see in Star Trek and all the other things, Chris Chibnall was a huge activist. And one of the things he did is he basically fired all the writers.
Oh, God.
And he brought in all these writers that he worked with on drama pieces. And, if we were going to go see Rosa Parks, well, we need a black activist to be the director of that episode. And we need a writer that's black, And while it did make some, authentic pieces and stuff, it lost the sci-fi.
Oh, wow.
And it just, the show went downhill fast. It went downhill in ratings fast, and is actually lower than it was when it went off the air in '89.
Oh, geez.
And so it's at, an extreme hole. And the only reason why it's still on the air is because it is tax subsidized by the BBC. So the British government pays for a good portion of the show.
Okay.
And
So
they have a weird thing over there where TV is considered necessity part of life because of being that. So they have a tax for television. So they have to pay for TV. It's a requirement. You can't be like, well, I just don't want to own a TV. You have to have a TV. And from my understanding, it's like the idea, like if the Queen needs to make a speech, she needs to make a speech, and you need to have a TV and a subscription to see it. But so they're really upset over there about a lot of the stuff that's going on just because of that. But it's been real interesting. That's been their biggest problem, is not having Nicole. Like, they don't have somebody who has a history of being a showrunner that is into the show, that's willing to put that in and want to take it on. So it's kind of been a challenge for them to find it. And like, they're going back to Russell T Davies, who, when he left the show, he's like, I'm never coming back. Like, it's too much stress. He put me in an early grave, like trying to get all this together, just because of the budget and the production times that they're working on. But the big thing that they did in Chibnall's era is they did a plot line called The Timeless Child. And I was okay with the Doctor being a woman. I get why that upsets a lot of people. I felt that they did it right. It could work. But they did this thing where they said that the Doctor wasn't really a Time Lord, and that he was basically like Jesus for the Time Lords. That, like, he came down to Earth and they experimented on him and took his holy genes and gave themselves immortality through him. And he was actually born a girl and had multiple lives before the show ever started, and they had erased his memory. And so everything that you've watched in the show so far has been a lie. So it kind of was like, just take everything about the show and forget about it. And so it really angered the fandom. Really angered the fandom.
Kind of the same way, in a way, when Disney came in and took over Star Wars, and they said, okay, all this expanded universe you guys have been reading is now not canon.
Right.
When George, like when after Return and time went on, and George realized there were some really good writers out there, he allowed people to start writing all this really great material. I didn't get into a lot of it, but he also allowed it to be canon. And then all of a sudden Disney comes in and said, no, rip it all up, and and probably it's where you get with the fandom today. And I bring that up because I think I seen somewhere where Disney Plus is going to have Doctor Who.
Yes, we did see that.
So it was HBO Max.
Yes.
Right.
And that was a deal to distribute it here in the West, or in the Americas and stuff. And because BBC's streaming services are not globally available. In fact, I have BritBox just to watch the Classic Who. But the other thing is, like, there's rumors that Disney is going to have their own spin-off show that they're going to produce, which they've done in the past. They did a Disney XD show called the Sarah Jane Adventures. They took one of the classic companions and was like, she was a reporter. And so when the Doctor just drops her off and she's not with him anymore, what's she doing now? Well, she's out there finding aliens, doing reporting. But it was very much made for a Disney afternoon budget.
Right.
And it had kids, and it was like, oh, like the neighbor kids were helping her out, and there were always aliens invading the school, and it was a lot more campy. But it was Disney. So they're looking at maybe something like that happening. Disney's putting some money into it, but I think a lot of it is Warner Brothers needed out of their contract.
Okay.
They paid for up to, or they were in a contract to 2026, but I don't think that they can afford to pay it. They're Warner Media, Discovery Media buying them.
Yeah.
That's like if Universal right now Pictures bought Disney.
Yeah.
That's like AT&T was running it pretty bad, but they had the millions to back it up.
Right.
Or the billions, I should say. And I think Discovery Media is like, things need to start making money, or we're going to go out of business just owning this company because it was hemorrhaging so much money. And so I think they're just like canceling stuff left and right.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we're going to a little bit these things with Leonard Girl said earlier, Russell T. Davis and Stephen Moffat were the best writers in Doctor Who history. The episode that we were just talking about, she said that does not exist to me, BYT.
Yeah. It's some hard stuff.
Jodie should not have been the 13th Doctor for over 5 years. We were trying for a red-headed male, and it never happened.
So now, to be fair, they had been teasing a woman since the 80s. So that is something that they have teased in Doctor Who. But I'm of the opinion that if they were going to do a woman, they needed to make it the most Doctor Who doctor ever. They needed to. I don't think it's wrong of me to say that they needed to prove it, because there's going to be so much of the fan base that would be turned off by that.
Right.
They need to go hard. And they went hard the opposite direction. That first season of hers felt like they were embarrassed to be Doctor Who.
Oh, wow.
And it just changed none of the classic aliens for the whole season. And just constantly, it was a lot of, it just not great writing.
Yeah, and I just want to, mainly for the audio people, as Leonard also remarked that, plus, as I said, they hired her due to an agenda, and she had a terrible writer. And that's the one thing too, is, if the writer sucks, you're going to get a crap product. I mean, all I have to do is say, look at current wrestling.
Yeah.
They've hired Hollywood writers, probably on both AEW and on WWE, and the product sucks.
Yeah.
It's like I remember from the Attitude Era, or even before the Attitude Era, I think probably closer to 10 years, she says, when was the last thing they had written the best female master?
Yes. I'm going to be careful because I don't want to spoil that reveal. But the master, like I said, he's the mustache twirling villain of the Doctor. And this one's very much different. Like the one that they have for David Tennant, his master is a little unhinged. But when they did the master as being for the first time female, like they did exactly what I said. They made it the most master the master's ever been. They went hard on it, and it was a brilliant performance. And leading up to it, and they had the actress. She was, I recently listened to an interview from her, and she was talking about how at the time she respected that the fans were upset. And she said, because fandom is a great thing. This is something precious. You should protect it. And she said, I just knew that if I did my best and we put it out there, that they would realize that we were not destroying the character.
Right.
And that happened. Like fans, I mean, there's a fringe group, but fans by the majority accepted the female version of the master. And it was really good, really dynamic. That's one of the best parts of Peter Capaldi's era, is just the concept of Missy and the female version of the Master.
Okay.
So
Cool.
I've got to kind of hard out here just a little bit.
Okay.
I've got an appointment coming up here in about 10 minutes that I got to rush.
No problem. Well, I mean, honestly, like I said, we want to thank you for being a patron of ours. We thank you so much. When she got when I handed her the list that you sent, and she saw Doctor Who,
That's where I went. I didn't even look at the
she
other
lit
part.
up. She just went ding ding ding. I mean, it was like a Christmas tree going off in the house.
Yeah.
But
and if I know you said you were going to be recording some pre-recorded episodes for the monsoon. If you want to do more,
okay,
let me know. Let me know.
Definitely will. Definitely will, because I definitely want to continue watching Doctor Who. I want to get caught up and try to get, I mean, obviously that's pretty hard starting at season 1 to get caught up now, but it could be done. It could be done in a decent binge watch.
Yeah, whatever you do, don't try to binge watch classic.
Okay.
That's very slow, very drawn out. That will burn you out fast. But
alrighty.
Anyways,
and Nick, thanks for coming on, bro. Where can everyone find you?
Yeah, they can find me on Twitter at Tardis and on YouTube at the Backyard Tardis. And thank you guys so much for letting me come on and just share some of my fandom. Doctor Who's one of my newer fandoms, but it's definitely kind of encompassed and taken over a lot. I just love the world and sandbox it gives us to play in.
Right on. And I'll let you know also if we ever do the original Battlestar Galactica. I love that show. So
it's a great show. Great show.
And to go off kind of what you're saying, yeah, I have not seen the newer one because the minute they showed me Cylons were not the, I'm like, yeah, no, not good for me. Sorry. I mean, I probably will give it a watch.
Still better than the 80s series.
But yeah, no, thank you again for everything you do for us, and thank you for coming on. And we'll definitely have you on for more shows. You be safe. You be safe and have a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Oh, that was an awesome night.
Yes.
That was fun. We had a blast. I mean, I enjoyed the heck out of Doctor Who.
Oh.
It definitely, it's kind of like, like for me recently, right? Started watching Stranger Things. Then started watching, plus been watching Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm getting these into these shows that I wasn't exposed to, or somebody didn't say, hey, watch this.
Yeah.
We tried to, or I shouldn't say we tried. We started watching Shameless.
Yes, we did.
Because my daughter recommended it.
Yes.
But then again, everything's getting away. We start watching racing, or we do this and that and that. And then next it's like, oh, well, I kind of forgot about watching it. That's kind of what happened with the Bel Air show.
Yeah, exactly.
It's, it happens with us even with Survivor.
It does.
Luckily it's binge. You can binge it a little bit,
yes.
And that's some of our problems sometimes is, especially with her work schedule where she's off at 9:30 at night here local time. And, you either have to wait and you have to wait for it to come on demand, or you're kind of, SOL, 10 years ago, even 15, 10 to 15 years ago, you had to go buy the seasons.
You did.
You had to go buy the physical box of the seasons.
Yep.
To be able to watch those things, especially if you were missing. But next week, we're going to have a blast.
Yes, we are.
Kim, why don't you tell these wonderful people what we're going to be talking about next week?
We are going to have a couple more guests.
We are?
Yes, we are.
A couple more guests?
Yes, we are.
Really?
And we are going to be talking Indiana Jones.
That guy?
Yes. Yes. And what it is, it's gonna be kind of touching on the movies and then an overview.
But who are we having on?
We are having as our guests next week Luna Girl and Dragon Buddy.
Right. And because they are also patrons of ours.
Yes.
And this was the month of patrons. So
yes, that's what they chose.
Right. And it's gonna be a great show next week.
Oh, it is.
This one might actually This one here might be hard to keep. I don't mean on the rails, but we don't. Tonight was probably the best rails we ever had. But next week might be the one show where all of a sudden it's like, oh crap, Rogue One's radio started 40 minutes ago.
Yeah, it might be.
I mean, Indiana Jones could go. We could talk forever.
Forever. Yeah, we can.
That's why we have a 3-hour window.
Yes, exactly.
That's why when we were looking at this, because everybody remembers we used to go like 7 Eastern or something like that.
We did.
And I'm like, I looked at Kim and said, can we adjust this to where we have like a 3-hour buffer to Rogue One Radio so we could be in their chat?
Yes.
Be a part of their night. So
exactly.
But anyways, next week, yes. Week after Thanksgiving, 1 week from today, we will have Lunar Girl and Dragon Buddy on. We're going to talk indie.
Yes.
And
November 29th to be exact.
Right, November 29th. And depending on whether or not I hear any information, I'm going to be reaching out. I may have to make a major change to December's list.
Okay.
And we might have to put 2 episodes on the back burner for 2023.
Okay, that's fine. I know it's
if that's the case, then I have got to hurry up and come up with something else we can throw in there.
Yes.
So, all right. But we'll know more hopefully within the next week or so.
Yes.
And once I do, then I can get the December list out to Lunar Girl.
Yes, we will.
Because I try to give her a month of what the hell we're doing.
Yes,
exactly. Sometimes we don't stick with it.
No.
Sorry. Anyways, I got a lot of work to do this week because now I get to make a new OP for next week.
Yes.
But anyways, thank you everyone for watching tonight. We had a blast with Backyard Tardis. It was fun. I think for me, getting into this show now, it's like, gosh, I wish somebody would have been. You're like you got into it because you're your brother.
Yeah.
And I wish I would have had somebody that would have been like, hey, check this show out.
Yeah.
But now I'm getting to experience it now, finding, and actually I started wanting to watch it after Dawn on the Escape Pod with Dawn, Lunar Girl, and Jess, I think
it was.
when they had their Doctor Who episode. And then I started watching, I think I watched the first episode. Went, okay, this is pretty interesting. You got excited but then we kind of stopped, and then like I said, things get in the way.
They do.
Anyways, I'm talking too much, so this would be great. Fuck up my voice more, but no, it was a great night. We want thank you everybody for showing up in the chat. Everybody that participated tonight, man, we had a roaring chat as always.
Yes, we did.
And have a great and safe, happy Thanksgiving to everyone. If you are going to go shopping on Friday, which is Black Friday, please remember one thing: the retail workers, they are putting in long hours that day. If something that you wanted is not in stock, it's because that store didn't get enough in stock. There's not more in the back.
No,
the workers didn't get to go pick through what they wanted.
Yeah.
So please just,
respect the workers.
Well, as long as they respect you.
Yeah.
I mean, if they don't respect you, then
yeah. But yeah, just don't. Yeah. If they don't show respect to you, then you don't need to respect them. If they do show respect to you, then respect them because it is a hard job.
Right. Be safe on not only your Thanksgiving, also on Black Friday. Until next week. Well, obviously 8:00 tonight. Rogue One Radio.
Yes, join
episode 11.
Andor. So get
with Dragon Buddy.
Yes. So hop on over to their YouTube station and get in their chat. That's a lively chat as well. And they also have great music breaks too.
Right.
I mean, there's awesome music that goes along with it.
But with that said, have a great week.
And a great weekend.
Be kind to everyone. Oh, by the way, better stick around. Because after you go peace and good night, everybody, there's one last little tidbit.
Yes.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Peace.
Peace.